All right, Alex, we are going. Yeah. How you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great. Thanks for having me. I'm really honored to be here. It's awesome.
I just get the mic a little bit. There you go.
There we go.
I remember when I played hockey, and one of the first lessons I ever learned in junior hockey was to always treat the training staff with respect. They do so much for you behind the scenes that you don't even notice. And as I was going, forward in junior, I paid attention a little bit more. My trainer, his name was Breaker, great equipment manager. And I always noticed the little things that he did after my first year, just paying attention to how long he was staying after the game, the little things that he did. And I couldn't imagine the little things and the attention to detail that you're doing at the CHL level, especially with the Mooseheads, such a prestigious organization. We'll get into that, but let's start with, how do you fall into a position like you're in? How do you get involved in it?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question. And kind of like I was very lucky. I kind of just like fumbled my way into this. It's kind of funny how it happened. I never played growing up, really, right?
Yeah.
Like big hockey passion, like massive. Like there wasn't a Saturday night that I didn't watch the Leafs with my dad, right?
Yeah.
Like it was just always on in our house. My dad's a massive Leafs fan. It was just we were a hockey house, but no one played. It was just kind of funny how it worked out that way.
Yeah.
But when I was in high school, when I was in grade 11, the high school hockey team at my high school in New Brunswick was like, they had gone through a few years of being kind of like not up to par with what the town would expect from that team.
Okay.
They had been in the early 2000s and mid 2000s, they were a force in like New Brunswick high school hockey, right?
Okay.
And there was a few years there where it just kind of slipped, right? And it just wasn't the same kind of quality, and they weren't really doing anything. They weren't winning and stuff. And when I was in grade 11, there was a pretty big movement because minor midget hockey kind of like collapsed in New Brunswick, right? There was a minor midget league like under your major midget.
When was this?
2013 or 14, like within our region, it kind of collapsed. There was a Northwestern Bulls team that kind of operated out of like Edmonton.
The dehumidifier's on. I got to turn it off. Just 1 second.
No
I
worries.
mess up
Yeah.
the mics. I almost forget this.
No worries. That's what cut and paste is for, right?
Yeah, I'll probably just keep this in. It's more natural. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Keep going. So 2014, the league went through a dry spell.
Well, it was probably more 2012 because that's when we kind of started, and there had been a coaching staff and stuff. And what happened was our vice principal of the school, Derek O'Leary, and one of our teachers, Mike Fletcher, decided they were going to take the program back over. Right? They took it over and they overhauled it. New jerseys, new look. Like we were a new dressing room. Like it was going to be a whole overhaul of the whole program.
Yeah.
And with this minor midget team that had been in like the Edmonton region had kind of like shut down operations. All those players that were from our area decided they were just going to play high school hockey that year. So our team went from like, I'm trying to be like nice about this, but it went from like a team of like the guys that couldn't make that level to a team that could very well have competed in a minor midget league.
Yeah.
Like we ended up being pretty good, and all my buddies played on the team. Like all of them had played on that minor midget team and were coming back to play high school.
I love that. High school was some of the best years of hockey in my life.
Unreal.
The girls are there.
Yep.
And all your teammates or all your like classmates are there.
It's all your best friends,
Best
right?
friends.
Like, and like, especially when you're good too. Like we ended up being good, and you end up being like the talk, right? And
love
it's like small town, like it's a good feel, right?
And you said Edmonton this is in?
No, this is in Woodstock, New Brunswick, where the Slammers used to play.
Jesus, I hated though playing there.
The Civic Center, man. Yeah, that good old rink.
The green seats.
The green seats, on one side.
On the drive there, we just talk about how much money they had. Like, oh, these guys are good. They got all the money. It would be like an 8-hour drive there. It'd be like, oh, it's good here. The money's here.
Yeah, it's a good hockey town, man. It's a great hockey town. It's a shame that the Slammers aren't there anymore. But they took that over, and all my buddies were going to play for the team. And they said at the first meeting, like, if anybody knows anyone that loves hockey that wants to be the manager for this team, like, we're looking for somebody, like come on. And that was at lunchtime, and I had class like the next period, I remember, with all my buddies, and they were like, dude, like, you got to get in on this. Like, this is so perfect for you. Like, and that's where it started. I signed up, and like, it was high school, so it's like a little more minimal than what I do now. Like, I was mostly doing like water bottles, and like,
you got to start.
I was on the bench, like opening the door for the change, doing the social media. Like, I was doing everything, right? It was crazy, but it was so much fun. It was like a great time, right? And it was kind of where I started. And at that time, you're not thinking anything of it. Like, I'm like, this is 2 years of fun, grade 11 and 12. We're going to be good. I tell my buddies, then I'm never doing this again. Right? Like, that's what you're thinking in your head. Like, I was like in a totally different frame of mind. Like, you're going to university after grade 12, and like, you don't know what you want to do. Like, I was like 16 and 17 years old. Like, I have no idea. Right?
Yeah.
But, so then basically what happened was that all ended, and I graduated from high school and was accepted to St. FX, and I went to St. FX. And on the very first day at X, I'll never forget this. It was like registration day. So we're like in the Keating Center, which is like the rink at St. FX.
Yeah.
And I'm in line to go like register for my courses and everything.
Yeah.
And on the box office window, it's me and my dad in line. On the box office window, there's a sign like posted there that says X-Men Hockey is looking for a student equipment manager.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about meant to be almost.
Like weird, eh?
Yeah,
It's wild.
That's weird.
So I'm in line and I kind of see that and I'm like, okay, cool. And I mentioned it to my dad and my dad was like, dude, like go get one of the like slips and like you should email them and sign up. Me at that time, 18 years old, first day of university, everyone knows where my mindset was. No chance that's happening, right? Like no way am I doing that. So you do the first 2 or 3 days of Frosh Week, right?
Yeah.
Which was a fun time. St. FX is a great place. And so then after, like, it was like the Thursday. And I'm sitting there and like I was a really involved student in high school. I did everything. Like I was in every activity you could think of. That was me. I was that guy, right?
Good for you, because most kids aren't. And
I did everything.
That works on your social skills.
I was in the choir. I did musical theater. I was in a band. Like I did everything, right? And a bunch of different committees. But then like the Thursday, I was like, man, like you did all this stuff in high school. You got to do something while you're here. If you don't, you're like your life will be like if you're not going to have any activity, I'm just going to do school. Like there's going to be no like enjoyment, like fun stuff almost, right?
Yeah.
So then I finally emailed. Aaron King was the assistant coach of the team at the time.
He was my head coach or assistant coach when I played for the Max.
Oh yeah, that's a small world. Yeah, great guy. So I emailed him and I said, man, I'd be interested. And I met him at the rink that night. And then I met Brad Peddle the next morning and away we went.
No way.
Yeah, that's how it went. It was crazy. I didn't even know how to sharpen skates.
No way.
No, not.
So how?
Kinger taught me.
Kinger taught you how to sharpen skates?
Kinger taught me how to sharpen skates at first. Yeah. Like he was the first guy, the first time I was ever on a machine, Aaron King was stood behind me, like watching me because he had worked at Pro Hockey Life.
Wait a second. So you're an equipment manager for in the AUS, the St. FX, the historic St. FX hockey team.
No idea.
And you don't know how to sharpen skates.
They were going to teach me. I was gung-ho for it. I was like, yep, absolutely. Let's go. They taught me and it was like, talk about being thrown into the fire.
I was going to say.
Right? Like, I got like a week of lessons, and then it was full-blown, you're doing the boys' skates.
The boys are like, yeah, Alex, we need a 3/4 cut.
Well.
You're like, all right, yeah, sure, I'll get that to you. You're like,
barely even know what it is,
Yeah, exactly.
right? And like the craziest part of it, too, like I'm like 18 years old. Full-on fresh, like full freshman, 18 years old. Youngest guy on this team is 21. Right? They all played 5 years of junior. So like I'm a kid compared to these guys, right?
Yeah.
Like a kid.
Yeah.
Like our captain was Rob Slaney, who had played a few years in the AHL and had played for Cape Breton back in the day. He was like 26 years old, right?
Jesus.
Like it was
intimidating.
Michael Kirkpatrick, who had played for the Sea Dogs back in the day when they won the Memorial Cup in 2011. I remember him playing for the Dogs when I was a kid growing up in New Brunswick. Right? Like it was wild. And like Trey Lewis is there and Brad Kusner and like all these guys. And
okay, so that's why all these guys were liking the tweet yesterday. I was like, how do they know Alex? Okay,
yeah, so they were all there with at St. FX when I first started. And like I kind of I had a connection to Cuzzy and to Louie right off the hop because my cousin Andrew Ryan had played here for the Mooseheads when they won the Memorial Cup.
I played a little bit with him when I was there.
So Andrew would be my cousin, right?
Oh, okay.
So they know each other and like they were all buddies and good friends. So like that kind of helped me kind of get in with that team too, because Cuzzy and Louie were pretty good to be like, what's going on, Alex, and stuff like that. And that's where my nickname came from too. I have the same nickname as Andrew. It just came from Trey and Cuzzy. A-Rai just became the thing. I don't even know when it started, but it's just continued to this day, right?
I love it.
And, yeah. And so yeah, like I had no idea. I had no idea what I was doing. It's like looking back on it, it's like crazy that I was even at that level doing it like this, but they had a ton of faith in me. Like Brad Peddle and Aaron King at that time put so much faith into me that I would get to the point where they wanted me to.
So then what do you think it was that it made them have so much faith in you? Was it your interview process? Was it your personality? Was it the fact that you were involved in so many things and you know how to communicate with people? Because communication is a big part in your job.
I think it was a combination of those things. And like, I was super like gung-ho to do it, right? Like they'd had a lot of students in the past who would like do it, but like they'd just show up like for practice and like leave and stuff like that. And I took it very like I was like practice at 5:30. I was there 2:30. No one told me to do that.
But why though? Why did you show up that early? Because you loved it that much?
I loved it, and what I did is like, I wanted to learn, right? So like I would pick the brains of the players a lot.
So what would you ask them?
What their trainers in junior did. Like, how did your junior trainer do things? Like how did it work? Like, what did you guys do? I was watching YouTube videos, like all those behind the scenes videos of NHL guys. I've watched every single one of them.
I watched them too. There's some good ones.
Oh, there's some great ones.
The Chicago one's the best one.
Chicago one's good, and the one the Leafs just did is pretty good too. With Papano and all those guys. Yeah. And there's a good one of the bubble, and there's a bunch of the good ones. And Minnesota has a good one too, but there's
Into the Wild, it's called, or something like that.
There's a lot of cool videos like that, and I was watching them all and following all these guys on Twitter, seeing everything that they were doing. I was learning whatever I could, like taught myself how to sew and taught myself how to use a riveter and taught myself like all this stuff, right? Started like studying stick catalogs and everything, learning curves and lies and flexes and like the different kick points of the sticks and like,
no way.
Well, like I decided like if I'm going to do this, I'm not half-assing this, right? Like I'm not a person who does that. I like to do things well, and I like to do them like the way they should be done. So I buckled down and just started getting good at it. And it was what an experience that first year was too, because we hosted the national championship.
Where was the Nationals?
Scotiabank Center.
Scotiabank Center. Yeah.
So we hosted the national championship.
So what year would that have been?
That would have been 2014, 2015.
Wow.
Yeah.
First year hosting the national championship. Yeah. Man, good for you.
So I got in, and it was just like, we were a pretty good team. It was like, I was there for 4 really, really solid years of St. FX. Like we went to nationals all 4 years I was there. We won 2 AUS championships. Like it just worked out, right? And that first team was like a bunch of like older guys and like veteran guys, and it was a really good learning experience, because like those, like one of the best stories that I can remember, like the first day that I'm doing the skates for the boys, right? Like this is like September, like the middle of September. I've been working on the machine for like a week and a half with Kinger, and it's finally like, here you go, like go. So I only do 1 pair, right? And Kinger's doing like all the other guys until I'm like fully ready to go, right? I do Brent Turnbull's skates, who would be Blair's brother. He played in the Q for 4 or 5 years, and I had him at X the entire time I was there. Like, at the time, I didn't know him that well, so like you kind of know his reputation on the ice, and you're a little bit intimidated by the guy. He's older than you, he's a big guy and stuff. But looking back on it, probably the best guy that I could have done right off the hop, because he's just a nice guy. He's a beauty, right? And I just remember doing the skates, and he puts them on and goes out for practice, and like I'm watching practice, and I'm like, can't be that bad. Like he's not falling down, and like stuff. Like this is where I'm at, right? He's not falling down and stuff, and he comes off the ice, and I just looked at him and I go, Turnsy, like, how was it? Like, were they good? And he just like shakes his head like, nope. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, oh, great. Right. But like, that was like, but you know what? A lot of guys would have just been like, fuck this. Right. Like, I'm not doing this. Right. And, I didn't. I was just like, you know what? I'll just keep working at it and working at it and working at it. It's one of those things, like the more and more and more and more you do it, you're going to get better. Like you're going to figure out how things work. And then eventually, like after that first year, like I kind of was starting to go like, man, like maybe this could be like maybe something that I want to pursue. Right. I enjoy
after that first year.
First year at X, it was when I really kind of thought about it. I was like, maybe like, so I switched programs in my degree.
What'd you switch to?
Kinesiology.
Okay.
Right. I kind of thought maybe like a sports background would be more fitting to a kin degree. I was just in general arts prior to that with my minors in music. So I was taking a lot of music courses, but
trainers need to know how to play music in the room.
Man, that's right. Well, I don't DJ the tunes because the boys wouldn't like a lot of the class.
DJ in the room?
Horvath usually.
Okay.
And he plays all that like, I don't know, like that stuff, like that rap and like
Trap.
EDM, like crazy stuff. And like, I'm like a classic rock, alternative rock guy. So like my music wouldn't really fly in the room, I don't think. But, so after that first year, I kind of like, that's when I was kind of like, you know, like I think maybe this would be kind of cool. So I switched programs and I talked to Petal about it because Kinger had left and Kinger was going to work for the Wildcats.
Yep.
So then it was like Peds was bringing in a new staff basically outside of like him and Dave Stewart. He brought in Sean Donovan and Brian Casey.
Okay.
And I talked to Peds and I was like, man, like I think this is what I want to do. Like I really want to buckle down and like really try to make something of this. Right. So what he did is he was really good friends with Dave Kelly, DK, who worked in St. John with the Sea Dogs. Yeah. So he calls DK and basically was like, man, I got this kid here. He's 19. He wants to do this. He wants to learn like anything you could do for him. So DK brought me down to St. John and I did the entire first week of their training camp with them.
No way.
In August of 2015.
No way.
And the amount of stuff that I learned in that week, like I still use it.
Give me an example of something that you learned.
So I remember the biggest thing was just like presentation of the room. You know what I mean? Like that's a huge aspect of our job. And like that first year, like I'm like the room always looked good on game day, don't get me wrong, but like not to the level that I can do it now, right? Like you just learn little things, right? Like something as simple as like tucking the chin straps up so that the chin straps aren't hanging down over name bars.
Oh, that's a vet move right there.
Right,
I would never like
that one, or like elbow pads and shin pads all face the same direction, like straightening up the stalls after the boys. Like when I was first starting, like you don't know, right? So like the boys would just throw the gear in the stalls and like it'd be close enough and that was it, right? Like it's where you want the gear to be put, but like you're not going around doing anything to it. Now it's like the boys make fun of me because I'm like so like anal about it. Like I'm going around each stall, like elbow pads have to be in the right spot and like shin pads have to be in the right spot and like they all face the same direction, and like it's the little attention to detail things that make you really good at this job, right? And that's where I learned it was like at that week, because I remember the first day DK basically tells me like go into the room and straighten up room 3, which has like all the vets in it, right? Okay. That room's a mess. Like it's just like how it goes. It's hockey, right? And I go in and straighten it up, and he just walked in. He goes, "Nope, redo it." And I was like, "Okay, what did I do wrong?" And he tells me everything I do wrong, so then I redo it. Yeah. He comes in, perfect. This is what it should look like every day this week. So then you get into that routine of doing it there. And then I went back that year to St. FX, and like all the players were like, "Dude, like what happened? Like you're like you're a totally different trainer now." Wow. Like completely different. And we worked on skate sharpening a lot that week too. Yeah. We changed a couple of the like things in my technique that like DK sharpen skates forever, right? So he just had me put a skate on. Yeah. Like I put it on the holder and he had me start going, and he stops me and he was like, "Okay, we're going to change this, and this." Yeah. And I changed it, and I still sharpen skates like that. Like one thing that I was doing, I was sharpening heel to toe. Now I sharpen toe to heel, right? Wow. And like small stuff like that, like, and little alterations that he made to like me as an equipment manager basically. And he remained like right up until he died, rest his soul. He remained like a very huge mentor to me. Like he was a guy, like if I had questions about how to do things or like what I should do, always asked him.
That's awesome.
He was a great guy in that sense. And so, yeah, I helped out with him. And then we came back that next year, which would have been 15-16. Our team was loaded. We were stacked. Yeah. And like we were a favorite right from the hop, right? And there's a lot of pressure that goes into that when you know that you're going to be a real high-end team, right? And we had a big recruiting class. We brought in a lot of big-name guys, and we went out that year, and we were really good. That was a really fun year. Like 15-16 might have been my favorite year at St. FX. It was a great year. We finished second in the league. We had the bye through the first round. Yeah. We beat SMU in the semis, and then we beat UMB in the final, won the AUS. Wow. Went to the national championship that year.
Where was nationals that year?
Here again. SMU was the host that year. Yeah. And we lost the national championship game to UMB. Yeah, it was what a ride that was, though. What a year. It was. Wow. And by the end of that year, like I even had players looking at me and being like, "Dude, you could do this. Like for sure. Yeah. Like you keep getting better, and like you will do something with this." And that became the motivation, right? So you just keep plugging away and trying to get better. And then I started getting involved with Hockey New Brunswick a lot and working with their high performance teams, going to the Atlantic Challenge Cup, going to the QMJHL Gatorade Challenge in Quebec every year. Yeah. I did Team Atlantic Girls U18 at the national championship level, which was a loaded team. Mae Batherson, Josie Chisholm, like big, like high-end team. It was like we beat Ontario that year. It was the first time Team Atlantic had ever beat Ontario. Really? It was crazy. Yeah. Wow. It was what an upset it was. It was wild. And so then I kept doing that and working at X, and then a couple like fill-in jobs kind of ended up happening in the queue. I ended up going to St. John for a bit and filling in when DK got really sick there in 2016. And that was an experience to go do your first Q game.